Hello and welcome back to Democracy, everybody. Welcome back to Helldivers 2, where today we're going to be ranking all of the energy-based weapons, which includes things like the laser weapons and the plasma weapons. And I think in our tier list, this is going to be like the one and only time that we have a D tier weapon. So that should be interesting. Let's just hop right into this, go down the line, and we're going to be ranking these against every single faction, as well as giving a build for each of them. First up, we have the Plasma Punisher. This is part of the Punisher family, sort of. It's the least Punisher-like out of all of them. This is a pump-action plasma launcher. It's almost like a grenade launcher, and this one can be pretty cool. It's definitely a different weapon. I don't see too many people using the Plasma Punisher too often, but I do think that it's actually pretty decent. For an overall rating for the Plasma Punisher, I would say that this one's probably A tier versus the bugs and the bots, but probably B tier versus the squids. I find this one a little bit awkward against the squids. It's actually really good at fighting the flesh mobs over there. For the bugs, it's pretty decent for the crowds unless they get too close to you, and that makes it a little bit awkward, but that's just sort of the plasma and explosive weapons in general that are a little bit awkward. Then you're not likely going to be able to kill yourself quickly with the Punisher Plasma, but it can happen. You can also hurt just about any of the bugs with this. Even the bigger bugs like Titans and Chargers, you can still hurt with this, and this does have a high amount of stagger on it, as well as it's actually pretty good against pretty much any of the medium bugs or the small bugs if they keep their distance. So if you can just keep shooting this at them, that's pretty good. This does have medium armor pen, and it does have explosive rounds on it, which is good. Against bots, it's actually really strong, especially the medium bots. It can kill the small bots really easy. You just have to splash this near them or hit them directly with it. With the medium bots, since they're such a big wide target, it's really easy to hit this, and it's really easy to splash it to multiple of them. So you can kill things like Devastators very easily. You can even kill like Berserkers pretty easily with it. Again, it's a little bit awkward if they do end up getting close to you, but that's still okay. And it also takes out Striders fairly quickly too, which is nice. Against the bigger bots, this one probably won't hurt them too much unless you're allowed to attack the weak spots, in which case then it's okay, similar to like the Slugger. And then against the squids, this one I find to just be a little bit awkward just because the voteless hordes can sometimes tank through this even if you're splashing damage to them, and sometimes you can just kind of get overwhelmed by them. And since they're a little bit higher up, it's a little bit more difficult to kind of lob this over them to splash it behind them, I find, compared to the bugs. It does kill flesh mobs pretty quickly, though. That is something that's really good, and you can bully Overseers with this. You can even kill Harvesters with this, which is good, but I find it's kind of awkward compared to other medium armor weapons for that same job, mostly just because you sort of have to arc this into the enemies. Overall, a pretty decent weapon, though. For the customizations that I'd recommend for the Plasma Punisher, I'd pretty much just say go with the iron sights if you can. Other than that, just pick whatever sights you'd like. That's the only thing that it has, and the iron sights just give you the best ergonomics, as well as I don't find myself like ADSing with this one very much. Most of the time, I'm just sort of like hip firing this, similar to the special weapon grenade launcher. And if you get used to that, then you don't really need to use the iron sights, but if you want to use the sights, then pick whichever sight you would like the best. Up next is, in my opinion, probably the worst rifle that's actually in the game. This is the Plas 39 Accelerator rifle. Now, this one came with the Killzone collab, and it's only with the Killzone collab, so if you're on Xbox, you don't have access to this one. But I don't think you're missing out on a whole lot from this, because this is a pretty awkward weapon, and I've never played the Killzone game, so I'm not sure if this is actually how it works in-game, but this one is just very awkward. So for an overall rating for this weapon, I would say that this one is D tier versus the bugs, and D tier versus the squids, but I would say it's probably like B tier versus the bots. This one's actually not bad for bots. It's a decent marksman's rifle. This one is a 3-round burst sniper rifle that you have to charge up. And it also has just 9 rounds in it that it consumes like 3 rounds every time you shoot it. It does have high damage per shot, which is nice. It's a little bit redundant for it to have that high damage, though, for so many enemies, since usually you one-shot like the bots with this if you hit them in the head. It also has explosive rounds technically, although it doesn't really splash that much. And it does have medium armor pen on it, which again makes it nice towards the bots. The problem with this, though, is that it's just in a very awkward spot. The marksman's rifles I find to be just kind of better than this. Even some of the assault rifles, if you just set them to semi-auto, I find to be better than this rifle as well. And we've already talked about some other special weapons like the Eruptor that I just find to be a whole lot better as like a heavy sniper rifle. So this one, against bugs, it's just very awkward. The medium armor pen is kind of good for fighting certain enemies. It does kill the medium bugs quickly. Doesn't kill the heavy bugs super fast, just because of like the 3-round burst and the charge up of it just makes it kind of awkward to like fight chargers with this. You can if you want, and it's really bad against the small bugs since they can swarm you really quickly and you do have to wait for this thing to charge up and then shoot it. The charge isn't that long of a time to it, but still, like, having 3 bursts and then that's it just does not feel good. Against the bots, this one is at its best, where you can kill the medium bots really fast with this, and the scope on it is nice. Even against bots, though, I'd rather have weapons like the Diligence Counter Sniper or the Lever Action Rifle that also have medium armor pen. The Lever Action does almost as much damage as this per shot. It holds 8 rounds rather than the 9, but at least I don't need to charge it up, and I can shoot it quite fast, as well as it's very accurate, and I get more customizations with it. I just find that one to be better than something like this. And then against squids, since this one does have medium armor pen, it can actually hurt all the squids, but again, it just falls into that category of being really awkward. It doesn't really kill flesh mobs quickly. You can't really kill the voteless hordes that quickly with it. I mean, you can kill individual ones pretty fast, but with like the 3-round burst, it makes it pretty awkward. Against overseers, this one's actually decent, and against like the harvesters, you can actually hurt them with the accelerator rifle, so it still sort of has a role there. But at the same time, if I was going to go for that, why not just take like the anti-material rifle or the railgun, and then take like a different marksman's rifle like the counter sniper if I wanted something like that. That would probably just be better overall. And just like all the collab weapons, there is no customization for this. Up next, we have the Arc 12 Blitzer. This is the electric kind of shotgun. It was technically considered a shotgun at one point in time, but that wasn't really a great fit for it since it isn't really a shotgun, it just throws out lightning. For an overall rating for the Blitzer, I would say this one's S tier versus the bugs, and then C tier versus the bots, and B tier versus the squids. This one is really good against the bugs and then kind of awkward against the others. So this one does 250 damage per shot. It does have lightning damage on it and it can stun, as well as it does have medium armor pen and it does have infinite ammo. Those are all pretty cool things. This does take a little while to shoot in between shots, so you can't just like spam it out. You have to fire it and then your person has to kind of slowly pump it and then you can fire it again. That's fine. I don't really have a problem with that since you're getting a weapon with infinite ammo. I do find that a little bit awkward compared to some of the other shotguns, at least in terms of rate of fire, especially like the Punisher. I find it not as snappy as that one. But against the bugs, you can make a real argument that infinite ammo is a really big deal, and it is very good against them since so many of them have to be within melee range. And this can hurt pretty much all the bugs. You can kill all the medium and small bugs really fast with this. You can kill stalkers really quick with it. You can even kill chargers with it fairly quickly. So that's pretty nice. On the bot front, this one is just kind of awkward to get close to shoot with. It still does work quite well once you are within range, but since the bots like to stay so far away, it can be a little bit awkward. It also can technically work against like Hulks, but if you're going to do that, I think the arc thrower is just kind of better, and even then, that's still kind of awkward. I'd rather have things like the spear gun or anti-material rifle or the railgun to kind of do that job. The squid missions, this one is still kind of awkward. It can work against the voteless pretty well. It works okay against flesh mobs until they're enraged, in which case then it's kind of awkward, and I'd rather have some of the other shotguns over it for that. And this one can beat up on overseers kind of consistently. Again, I'd still rather have some of the other like shotgun weapons. This isn't a shotgun, but I'd still rather have them over this. This isn't a bad weapon against them, and you could even potentially hurt harvesters with this. You usually don't want to get that close though, because then they can zap you. But if you're wearing like electricity armor, that could work. I don't know, the Blitzer is definitely specialized towards the bugs though. Like, it can be really good. And then for customizations for it, once again, you can only change sights about this one. So throw the iron sights on here because that gives you the best ergonomics, because I almost never like ADS with the Blitzer. There's not really a reason to. It just throws out lightning. It's very similar to like the arc thrower. You don't really need to be aiming down sights. You just are trying to arc it close enough to enemies so that it can hit them. Up next is the Las5 Scythe. This one is pretty cool. This one comes in the free war bond. It'll probably be the first energy weapon you get, unless you went with some of the other war bonds that allow you to have others a little bit faster. But this one is a laser beam rifle where you just hold it on something until it dies, kind of like a magnifying glass. For an overall rating for the Scythe, I would say this one's probably B tier against the bugs, A tier against the bots, and then B tier against the squids. This one's not personally one of my favorite weapons, but it is actually pretty decent, especially with the upgrades, and it does actually get quite a few of them. So this one does 350 damage per second. It doesn't really have like damage per hit since you just hold it onto something. And if you can hold it onto a weak spot, which this thing has no recoil, so that's very easy to do, you can kill them very quickly. As well as this weapon does have infinite ammo as well, so long as you don't overheat it. If you overheat it, then you will have to change out the heat sinks for it. And that's not a big deal, especially with some of the upgrades that you can get for it. This does only have light armor pen though, which does make it so it's a little bit awkward against certain enemy types, but usually not that bad. Against bugs, this one can be pretty good, but since they can swarm you so quickly, it's a little bit awkward. At range, this one is really good. You can kill all the medium and the small bugs really, really easy. Against the bots, this one is really good. because you can kill any of the medium bots extremely fast with it. You just hold it on their head and you'll kill them. You can be shooting all the way across the map and be killing stuff with it. That is really cool. It doesn't kill as fast as some other rifles, which is why I don't put it quite up to S tier. I think the marksman's rifles can kind of kill those bots a little bit faster, and certain other weapons like Dominator I find a little bit like more forgiving for fighting the bots. But this one can still kill them very quickly. You can kill the small bots super easy too. Against big bots, you can't really do much to them, but that's why you bring different weapons in. And then against the squids, once again, this one's actually pretty good. You can kill the voteless pretty fast. You can kill flesh mobs, especially at a distance, fairly quick with this one. It's not the fastest, but it's not bad. And it's okay against overseers too, because you can just kind of hold this on their head. If they're flying around, it can be a little bit more difficult to just hold this on them. But you can still kill them, and this can also light enemies on fire. I forgot to talk about that too. This one does have a decent amount of customization. For the ones I'd recommend, I like the 1.5 times tube for the sights on this, but any sight, whichever sight you like the most, I just like being able to use this at somewhat range. This would actually be a really cool weapon if it got like the 10 times scope. I would probably put that on here, because I can see that actually being really good on bot missions and just lasering things quite a ways away. For the underbarrel, I'd recommend the angled foregrip. That'll just give you better ergonomics, so you can just move it from target to target quicker. This doesn't have any recoil. And then for the magazine, I really like the high capacity heatsink. That makes it so it takes a very long time for this to overheat. So you can just hold this on enemies for quite a while, and if you do overheat it, you can swap to your secondary and then reload this when you have time. That way you can keep fighting. If you're not overheating this, then the high capacity heatsink doesn't really come with any downside other than the ergonomic drop a little bit. But that's a trade-off that I'm willing to make just so that I can hold this onto enemies a little bit longer than I would otherwise. Up next is the last 16 Sickle. This weapon is pretty cool. This weapon has been one of my favorites ever since it came out. So this one is pretty much a laser assault rifle. This one also has infinite ammo, as long as you don't overheat it. Otherwise, you will have to change out the heatsink. Comes with 3 heatsinks. Unless you're running like the siege ready armor, then I believe you get 4 of them. And this one has light armor pen, and it makes for actually a really good like general purpose assault rifle. This one I would just say is A tier across the board. It is very nice. This one doesn't do the most damage out of any of the assault rifles, doing only 55, but it does have a high rate of fire, and it is super accurate. This has pretty much no recoil to it. It's very easy to keep on target, and if you're not overheating this, then this is essentially an infinite ammo assault rifle. Again, is it as strong as some of the other assault rifles? No, but it can light things on fire, which is pretty cool if you shoot them enough. Not as good as like the Coyote is right now. Coyote's definitely the best assault rifle by far. But this one is still very, very capable. Like, you can clear up just about anything. Against the bugs, it kills all the small and medium bugs relatively fast, especially the small bugs. It's really good for that. It's really good for shooting shriekers out of the air, too. The big bugs, this one's not going to do a whole lot to them. It's not really the best to be shooting like chargers with, but again, you bring special weapons and stuff like that for it. Not a big deal. Against the bots, since it is so accurate, it's very easy to hit the medium bots in the head. Against the small bots, you can just spray them wherever. Bigger bots, you're going to need special weapons once again. And then against the squids, this can rip right through the hordes of the voteless. You can kill like the flesh mobs pretty quickly with this, and you can kill things like the overseers pretty quick with it. It doesn't really do anything against the harvesters or like stingrays or anything, but that's okay. Once again, you just take like a special weapon that can kind of deal with all those things. The laser sickle, I have no complaints with whatsoever. I think it's probably one of the most balanced weapons in the game, or one of the best balanced weapons in the game, where it has just felt consistently good ever since it came out, and like I really like it. For customizations, the only thing you can change once again is sights. Personally, I like the Reflex Mark II sight on here, but the 1.5 times tube is really good. Iron sights do give you the most ergonomics, but this one already has high ergonomics, so it's really your choice with this weapon. Pick whichever sight you like the most. And then our next weapon is the double-edged sickle. If you like the regular sickle, I think you're going to like this one even more. Or maybe you'll hate this one even more. It really depends. This weapon is really cool. So this weapon is basically the same as the sickle, but it has the ability to keep overheating and doing more damage and cutting through more armor. This one, for an overall rating, I would say is S tier versus the bugs, S tier versus the bots, and then probably A tier versus the squids. I find it a little bit less useful against the squids because I don't always need like heavy armor pen from this. But this does have basically the same stats as the regular sickle does. Just once it starts heating up, it then goes from light armor pen to medium armor pen up to heavy armor pen, and it does do more damage. And then it also lights you on fire, which actually isn't that big of a deal, because if you have like fireproof armor, especially like the heavy salamander armor, you can burn for quite a while, and that's not such a big deal. You pretty much become a screaming LMG with this, because it can put down a lot of suppressing fire really quickly. It is still very accurate. It still clears through just about everything, but this makes it so you can clear up like medium and heavy enemies even better than you could with the Sickle. Against squids, I still find it's kind of the same. Like, yeah, you can now hurt harvesters with this, and you could shoot things like stingrays out of the air with it, which does give it more utility, but then lighting myself on fire more often against the squids sometimes gets me in trouble with like the voteless and sometimes the flesh mobs. I find that I'm a little bit safer like running around with the Sickle. So that's why I give these like the same rating. I don't really find myself like really finding one of these better than the other in a lot of situations against the squids. Oh, also you can take the health booster with this one, and the health booster makes it so that the fire damage is rolled down to a lower number, so you can burn even longer with that, which is really good. Also, just crouching down can make it so you can put yourself out from this, which is good. Keep that in mind. And then also it's a bigger bonus if you have somebody with the stim pistol, especially if they're rocking medic armor, and just stimming you with that, because you can then just sit there and fight just about anything. Like the double-edged sickle is actually really fun if you have a teammate doing that, so long as they're not getting knocked around. For the overall attachments though, this one is totally your choice. Pick whichever one you like. I like the 1.5 times tube for this, but if you like the reflex sight or you like the iron sights for the better ergonomics, go for it. Like I said, this one's pretty much the same as the Sickle in terms of like overall everything, besides the fact that you can just overheat it more. So whatever you like on that will work just fine on the double-edged Sickle. Then we move over to the Plas 1 Scorcher. The Plas 1 Scorcher I would consider one of the best weapons in the game, and again, one of the best balanced weapons in the game. This one also comes in the free war bond, and this is the only plasma weapon that's actually in the free war bond. This one is really good. It's always been really good. This one, for an overall rating, I would say is A tier across the board. The only reason I wouldn't say the Scorcher is S tier is because you can run through ammo with it pretty fast. That's its one and only downside. But if you're getting resupplies regularly, if you bring the resupply backpack, then yeah, you can say this one's S tier because you don't have to worry about ammo then. If you're finding a bunch of ammo boxes around the map, or if somebody else is bringing the resupply and they're just giving out resupplies to everybody, the Scorcher becomes incredibly strong. This does really good damage per shot, really good damage per second, holds 20 rounds. It has medium armor pen as well as explosive rounds on it, like pretty much all the plasma weapons do. It's pretty much just a plasma assault rifle. This one wasn't always fully automatic, but I do like that they buffed it to be fully automatic. That is pretty cool. And the rate of fire is good. This one works pretty well against everything. Like, you can kill the bugs really fast, you can kill the bots really quick, you can kill the squids really quick. Doesn't really matter what you're fighting, unless you're fighting like really big enemies. Like, it's not going to kill titans and tanks really fast. But against any of the small and medium enemies, it will kill them incredibly quick. Really cool weapon though, and I do like it better with like the Siege Ready armor, just so that I can get that extra magazine. Like, if Arrowhead ever decided to buff the Scorcher and give it like 2 more magazines, I would say it would be an easy S tier across the board for everything. It's really good. The only problem is running through ammo a little bit quickly. It also has a lot of customizations, which is pretty cool too, at least compared to some of these weapons. Me personally, I like once again going with the reflex sight, but you could go with the iron sights if you want better ergonomics. The Scorcher already has really good ergonomics, so just really pick whichever sight you like the most. I mean, it already starts out with the 1.5 times, which is really good too. And then I like going with the angled foregrip, once again just for the better ergonomics. I don't find that I really need the vertical on this because it doesn't shoot so fast that it becomes kind of uncontrollable. And then our very last energy weapon is probably our strongest energy weapon, and one of the strongest weapons in the game overall, I'd say. Up next, we have the Plas 101 Purifier. This is a plasma rifle similar to the Scorcher, but it's only semi-auto. Or you can charge it up and then have it be basically an explosive sniper. And it charges fairly fast too. So for an overall rating for the Plasma Purifier, I would say this one's S tier across the board. I think the Purifier is one of the best weapons in the game against everything. I don't think this has a bad matchup against anything, because you can still shoot this as a semi-auto rifle when things get close and do pretty good damage with it and kill things pretty fast. You still have 15 rounds in this. It barely has any recoil, it barely has any spread, and then if you're allowed to, you can just charge this up and then kill pretty much anything with it. Like, the charge shot does really well even against the big enemies. So the Purifier has 500 damage per shot. That's, I believe, with the fully charged shot. That's not with the semi-auto shots. This one also has explosive rounds and medium armor pen on it, which is really good. And the explosive rounds also splash more the more you charge this up. There was a time where the Purifier was arguably the worst weapon that was ever added to Helldivers, because when it first came out, it was pretty weak. It was a sniper rifle that didn't really do much. The semi-auto in it did almost no damage to anything. Charging it up kind of did more, but it still didn't do that much. And then they pretty much like mega buffed it to where it became like one of the best weapons in the game. And that's really cool. On the bug front, you can kill pretty much any of the small and medium bugs with a charge shot. You actually can, and you can splash it to multiple bugs, so you can kill a lot with that. All the medium bots get bullied around by this thing with charge shots, and since you're usually fighting at a distance, it's really easy to charge this up and just keep hitting them. It's kind of like a mini railgun in that way. You can even shoot out like the gunships with this if you hit them twice in the engine with it, which is kind of insane because the only other weapon that really does that consistently is like the Eruptor, but that one has a slow rate of fire. This one doesn't even have a slow rate of fire, so it's still good in that regard. You can even fight the big bots with this if you want to. Against the squids, you can completely destroy flesh mobs with this. This is really strong against flesh mobs. It's really strong against the voteless too, with the charged up shots or just with the regular semi-auto shots. Charged shots also just bully around any of the overseers too, so you can take them out. You can fight like the stingrays, or you can fight the harvesters with this really easily too. You don't really need any other weapon other than Purifier against the squids. This one does kind of everything. And yeah, it's just a very, very solid weapon. For customizations, it also gets a lot of good customizations, weirdly enough. You think that would be like the downside of this. For me personally, I like going with the 1.5 times tube for this that it starts out with. I find that to be the best because sometimes I do want to be using this at longer range. But again, if you want the best ergonomics, you could go with the iron sights. And then usually I go with the angled foregrip because most of the time I'm using the charged up shots. I'm not shooting this really quickly in semi-auto. If you are, then maybe you want to go with like the vertical foregrip. That can help too. And that'll do it for all the energy-based weapons. Overall, energy weapons are pretty solid. Sometimes they're a little bit weird to get used to. Like, it did take me a while to come around to like the Scythe. I wasn't really the biggest fan of it for a long time, but I do kind of like it now. I think it's pretty fun. I was always more of a fan of like the Sickle or the Scorcher. I found those to be a little bit more intuitive, although they function very similar to regular assault rifles. And speaking of assault rifles, that's probably the next group of weapons that we're going to be talking about. So look forward to that. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Tell me your thoughts on these weapons down in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye, everybody.